the last few years you've been in the Pac-12 tournament, and regardless of the outcome, you guys are making the NCAA tournament. Are you guys treating this week almost like as if you're playing in the NCAA tournament?
Yes and no. I think for us, especially on the heels of our performance this weekend, I think that sometimes the more simple, the better. And, I think the two themes for our team as we approach Vegas are, number one, pride. It has to come from within you as an individual player. It's got to mean something to wear the Arizona uniform and to be playing in a prestigious conference tournament like the one we have at T-Mobile in the Pac-12. Like you said, I think we've been in the championship game 6 or 7 times. I'm not sure, but one of those 2, and we've won it 3 times. And we've played well in the Pac-12 tournament. We really have. I think maybe other than our first year 10 years ago, we've always, I felt even in a loss, we've played very hard. And sometimes playing hard isn't good enough, but I don't think we've ever really left there with regrets. We've played to win. We've always looked at that tournament as having great meaning. But I think, pride is number one, and along those lines of pride is just effort. I think sometimes it's taken for granted that, of course, that team is going to play with all their might, with all their heart, being all in and playing every possession like you want them to play with tremendous effort. But it's really a hard thing to do. It's hard to do during the course of the season, and it's hard to do for 40 minutes. You could do it for a period of time. So it's not really about the outside or the big picture NCAA tournament or single elimination as much as playing with pride and playing with great effort. And I think we can establish those two things this week, leading to our one and only game. Because if you lose, you're out. It's different now. Is the Wednesday game against USC.
A lot has been made of your speech, your senior day speech. I want to give you the opportunity to clarify. To you, was that a goodbye speech, or was that just another speech and people are making way too much out of it?
It certainly wasn't a goodbye speech. I meant everything that I said. You have to take into consideration the context. I think part of me in that speech is, you're overwhelmed by the fact that there's a crowd still in attendance. I mean, we lost to our rival. That's a small part of it. Obviously, we finished our season. It's not a successful season by any standards, other than to a large extent, I think we did about the best that we could. So I think from that perspective, it's not like I'm pointing fingers at anybody on our team. If anything, I'm pointing finger at myself. But I meant what I said in terms of I can't imagine a fan base treating a coach any better than this fan base has treated our staff and me. And it's been from the beginning, when I was the 4th coach in 4 years, 10 years ago, through a lot of great moments, and then the last 2 years where a lot of fan bases would change, easy to not feel good. But the group of people that come to our games in McKale, I think we've led the Pac-12 again in attendance, over 13,000. It's overwhelming to see the support, and I'm not naive enough to think that it would be like that at every place. May not be like this at any other place. And the second part of me, how I worded what I worded was, it's also not the time to talk about the future. At that moment, I hadn't even talked to our team. And it's still not the time to talk about our future. I think, for us and me, the coach, it's not fair to this group, this team, the guys like Ryan Luther and Justin Coleman, to talk about a period of time when they're no longer going to be here. So for us, I want to make sure that we address things in the present. And that was my best attempt. And if it was taken any other way, that certainly wasn't what I was trying to accomplish. But I think if you look carefully at my message and words, I can't thank the group, the fans, the people who are season ticket holders, and how much they've stood by this team and our staff in the last couple of years under some very trying times.
Coach, you feel like the investigation weighed down on the season, yourself, the team, the fans in any way?
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, do you feel like the investigation weighed down on the season, yourself, the fans, the team?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Coach, when you played USC the first time, you lost by 23 but were without Chase Jeter. One thing that stood out to me was you guys had only 7 turnovers throughout that game. What positives did you see in the last few games that can carry over to a front court heavy USC team this week?
Well, the last 2 games of our regular season, one thing has really changed, and it led to just an avalanche at Oregon in the second half. Keep in mind, the score was 31-all at the half, right? Ironically, I think the score might have been the same against Arizona State at the half, 31-all. But in both games, the thing that we had as our greatest strength that kept us in a lot of games and allowed us to win a few away from home and win some really tough games all the way to the final buzzer was our ability to take care of the ball. We hit long stretches this season where we played with 10 or fewer turnovers. We had first and second halves that, we played with 3 or 4, which is a great strength that I think any coach would love to have. But these last 2 games, we've not been able to do that, and it's led to some poor performances. And I think both second halves, we turned the ball over a lot against ASU in the first half. The only thing that kept us in it is they cooperated. They turned it over as well. But we're not good enough to overcome that many turnovers. We have too many things that are against us already. We don't have a large margin for error. And the game, again, at Oregon in our last game of the season against ASU, it reflected what it feels like when we don't do what we do best. We don't do it at all, which is take care of the ball. Our turnovers really, really hurt us badly.
Coach, Ryan Luther and Justin Coleman, both graduate transfers, are playing in their first Pac-12 tournament. Can you describe the leadership and role that they've played in within keeping the foundation of Arizona basketball throughout the year?
Well, that was also a big part of what I said after the game against ASU. I think the best compliment that I can pay Justin Coleman and Ryan Luther is, although they're both grad transfers and have not even been with us for a full year, it feels like they've been here for 4 years. And that says it all. It really does. Who they are as teammates, how they've approached every practice that they've had, regardless of how they played in a previous game, regardless of how our team did. Those guys have really been all in to get our team here to the finish line. And obviously, we want the season to extend as long as possible for those 2 guys. The good news about the Pac-12 tournament for both of them, they both played in big conference tournaments at their previous schools. In Ryan's case, he's played in the ACC tournament. In Justin Coleman's case, he's played in the SEC tournament. So they're familiar with what that feels like, and that's also part of what they bring. Keep it in mind that they're way more experienced than anybody else that's on our team, maybe other than Chase.
The way Brandon Randolph started the year off, it looked like he was going to be that go-to scorer that you seem to have always had every year, but then he's tailed off and no one else has really stepped up. Has there been difficulty not knowing that you have that guy that can go off for 20 every night?
Yeah, I think in the last 5 games, I don't know if we have a player on our team that's averaging 10 points a game. It says a lot. But, Brandon's done the best that he can. He has had a much bigger role this season than he had last season. And I think when you look at, his statistics, some of it is just a reflection of the fact that we've asked him to do an awful lot. And I think his intent has been great. And it's like any young developing player, they will develop as they get older.
But does that change the approach that you don't have that one guy that that can just go off?
Yes, but I'll also tell you that some of the teams that we've had have been really balanced as well. And that's been the strength of our team. 5, sometimes maybe even a 6th player that's close to being in double figures. So we've always had a balance, but you're right. I think you can always point to maybe one perimeter player or one low post player that you could count on. A year ago, you really had 3 of those guys, or almost 4 of them on the court at the same time.
The way those 2 USC big guys hurt you last time, how much difference do you think that would have made with Chase at full health at that point? And does that make you feel better now, or because of the turnovers and some other things you're talking about, is it kind of a concern no matter what?
We're a better team with Chase, and especially SC. The strength of their team, I think, lies in their 2 big guys. I mean, statistically, Benny Boatwright and Rakasevich, it's they combined for 33 points per game. If you look at their shooting percentage, it's really a 50% from the field overall. Obviously, Benny is one of the premier shooters in the country, especially with his size. I mean, he's shooting 43% from the three-point line. So you look at their rebounding, especially Rakasevich. He has 101 offensive rebounds in 31 games. I mean, I think that's either tops in our conference or top 3. So they hurt you in every way. And so having Chase versus not having Chase, of course, that's going to be to our benefit.
You mentioned turnovers already. Is there a common trait that teams have that leads to success in Vegas in a tournament like this?
Yes, I think the hardest playing team has a big advantage. Maybe that's in the eye of the beholder. Who do you think plays hard? But, you look at rebounding. You just look at when a team really needs a big defensive stop, the consistent effort, not just in a first half segment, but for the entire game. And then, obviously if you're a team that's trying to win it, can you do it again the next day without any rest? Can you do it again a third day? Maybe this year, can you do it again for a 4th day? It's the effort level, guys who've given their heart and soul. When I think of the Pac-12 tournament, I think of somebody, for example, like a Kadeem Allen. One thing about him, he played really hard with great effort. And was he perfect? Of course not. But when you have a guard like that on your team who plays like he played, it's very difficult not to join in. So I think, the harder playing team, and then being yourself. If you're a team who takes care of the ball, you have to be able to do the things that make you a good team. If you're a very good rebounding team, at the end of those games, you have to look at rebounding and say, we did what we did all season long. In our case, there's a lot that we didn't do well. So I think some of it is, can we have a hot shooting night? Can we obviously take care of the ball? Can we be a better defensive team in this tournament than maybe we've shown recently?
Is it going to take 4 straight hot shooting nights, or are there other ways that you guys can win 4 straight like that?
I don't know if hot shooting, we have to play really good offense. I think you would have to be able to point to that we played above our head, so to speak. We overachieved on the offensive end. Sometimes it's free throw shooting. It's one game you go 22 for 25 from the foul line and you win by 1 point. But we have to find a way. I do think there's probably 6 teams that join this Pac-12 tournament that are capable of winning 3 or 4 games. I look at Oregon. I certainly wouldn't want to play them. I had that feeling when we played them last weekend, watching them at the Washington trip do what they did to Washington on the last home game. They have talent, depth. They're a really hard-playing team. They have a lot of versatility. They've had success in Vegas. I could see them being a tough out.
A lot of coaches, and you also have done this kind of cape for the league a little bit. How many teams do you think that, let's say Washington doesn't win the tournament, how many teams do you think the Pac-12 should get into the NCAA tournament?
Well, that's a hard question to answer. I talk to my brother every night, so he kind of skews the argument, towards a team like his that's just, I think they've played more quad 1 games than maybe any team in the nation. I mean, that's, if you were a team like Indiana, what you would say is like, man, how couldn't that have great meaning? But I would like to think that Washington has certainly done enough to be an at-large team. And again, if they appear in your bracket because of their unique defense and their style, I think that they're a team that can certainly win in the NCAA tournament. But Mike Hopkins has done just a great job in his 2 years there. And they have a lot of upperclassmen, so I would like to think that if given the opportunity that they could advance in a tournament, but I see them as a lock. Maybe I'm naive, and And then, ASU's done a lot. They've played a great non-conference schedule, have a premier win over Kansas, have played well at the end of the year, finished the season with 2 road wins over Oregon State and us. You like to think, again, they would be rewarded by their total non-conference and the fact that they've done a good job in the Pac-12. And maybe if a team like Oregon can get all the way to the championship, or whoever would win the championship other than them, I guess utopia would be 3 teams. But I sure hope we could get at least 2 in. But there's some other conferences that have a pretty good argument.
So how do you approach this overall, having play on Wednesday? It's a difficult task. I mean, do you feel like you guys could be one of those 6 teams making a run, or do you just look at this first game and think maybe you plan on doing the best you can and just take it from there, or how do you approach it?
Yeah, we're going to approach it, kind of like I said earlier. 2 things that we have to be able to control is just playing with great pride, and alongside that pride is playing with great effort. And, to look past your first opportunity is foolish, whether you're the 1 seed or the 12 seed. If you lose, you're done. So we hope that we can play a good game, be at our best, and play with that pride and with great effort on Wednesday at noon. Game will be here before you know it.
When you look at SC, when you've seen the recent videos, and they've been on kind of a skid lately too, even though, as you said, they've played with some confidence. They have those 2 really good big guys and some other nice pieces. What's gone wrong basically for them? And do you feel like they could be better than they've shown?
I mean, I'm not the coach of USC. Andy Enfield does a great job. They were really, really good. A year ago, we played them in the championship game. They were 2 seed, had an outstanding team, and I'm not there every day. I'm sure that, like us, they've had their obstacles, and but they have a number of good players, and he's a really good coach.
Coach, with 4 games in such a short amount of time, how do you plan on utilizing Brandon Williams throughout the tournament? And do you think, as the deeper you guys get into the tournament, do you think he'll have a much more impactful role with you guys?
Brandon is full go. We're going to play him. He has no limit restriction. If we would be fortunate enough to beat USC, same thing would be the case the next day, unless he would share with us that he is experiencing some pain. Since he's gotten back from his absence and his injury, and if you've seen it once, you've seen it 100 times. His health is not an issue, but you're out of sorts. He's still a young player, a freshman, and obviously he's gotten into foul trouble, not just in the ASU game, but in some others. So that's something that he'll learn from, and hopefully he'll do a better job of being able to play longer periods without fouling here in this next game. We could use him, and he's a terrific player. I believe one of the best young players in our conference, and when he's playing like that, he makes our team a lot better.
Is it easier to get a young guard to not foul as much than a young big?
I would say so. It's kind of uncommon for a guard to get in foul trouble like Brandon has, but his intent is good. It's just, I would just say he's a little bit rusty. There's a big difference between a few practices and game action, and the other part is, we're talking about late season games, so players are really strong in their roles. They played a lot of basketball. It's not like picking it up in November, December, so it makes perfect sense to see him have some issues, but the more that he practices and plays, the more he'll return to form.
Do you think he might have made the all-freshman team if he didn't get hurt? He was honorable mention, I guess.
I do. I think he would have had a great chance, for sure.
Did you get a chance to look over the other all-conference defender teams?
I didn't. Who was the player of the year?
They're going to announce that on TV at 5,
Okay.
but they just did the 15-man team, did 5-man freshman, 5-man defense.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it.
Brazil. And then, like you were saying the other day, you didn't have anybody else on there, but Brandon did get the honorable mention. Is that kind of what you figured, the way things have gone, that it was going to be tough to get a guy on there?
Yeah, with team success comes all the individual achievements and accolades and success. It's always been that way, and it's been that way for us many, many times.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thank you.